Welcome to Logistics Business Conversations, where we talk with key spokespeople in the logistics industry about topical issues. Hosted by Peter Macleod, editor of Logistics Business magazine.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. Welcome to the latest Logistics Business Conversations podcast, brought to you today by Dematic. My name is Peter Macleod, and I'm the editor of Logistics Business magazine, and it's my great pleasure to host this conversation. The last mile is a perpetual challenge for retailers, particularly grocers. Consumers in urban areas are becoming increasingly demanding, as they're used to popping around the corner to shop spontaneously for food and drink. Grocers are still working out the best way to serve these customers, and one strategy that's gaining traction is the establishment of microfulfillment centres in towns and cities. Essentially, they're mini DCs serving groceries on demand to the customer. At least that's what I believe they are. Thankfully, I'm joined today by a grocery fulfillment expert who can educate us all about the challenges of serving fresh goods to urban customers and also offer an overview of the kind of technology that's powering this fascinating branch of intralogistics. So today I'm delighted to introduce to you Danielle Dakin, who's the Global Marketing Development Director for Dematic and a grocery sector specialist. Hello, Danielle, and welcome to this edition of Logistics Business Conversations. It's a great pleasure, and I want you to get us underway, Danielle, just to briefly describe your background and your current role within Dematic.
Yes, okay. So perhaps let's start with my background. So I've been working in the warehousing and distribution industry for over 22 years now. And mostly in that time, I've worked in operations in process improvement for some well-known brands like Tesco, Coca-Cola, and Stanley Black & Decker. But I've also worked for third-party logistics companies like Kuehne + Nagel and GXO. In terms of my current role at Dematic, so yes, I'm a specialist strategist focused on the grocery market. And basically, I work with industry to understand the trends, the challenges, so that we as a business can better support our customers with things like automation and software solutions that are actually the right fit.
So to kick us off on our topic of how grocers can best serve urban areas, could you paint for us a picture of the challenges they face in trying to give the consumer what they want, when they want it, and where they want it?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So if we take, let's say, a macro level perspective, there are 5 major things that make doing business and improving service levels for the consumer quite challenging. And the first is that, well, historically, retail grocery has been a low margin industry. And this actually continues to be the case, especially for the retail side. Secondly, well, many European countries have been experiencing a cost of living crisis. And this, together with supply chain disruptions, they've led to retailers competing more aggressively on things like product price and service. And consequently, and this is where the third factor comes into play, customer loyalty has become a challenge that many grocery retailers are really trying to address with things like loyalty schemes and service improvements. The fourth challenge is that, in making these service improvements, there are some operational or cost to serve challenges. Attracting and retaining labour is still a big challenge and becoming increasingly expensive. There's a struggle for many grocery retailers to actually make the online channel profitable, and product ranges are increasing, making storage space a real challenge. And finally, the fifth is really the aftermath of the COVID years. COVID drove big increases in online volume, which have now normalized to what it should have been with growth through, let's say, normal times. So I'd say that these 5 areas, so low margins, the cost of living, consumer loyalty, the cost to serve, and the aftermath of COVID are the real core challenges.
Wow. Well, those are subjects that I've heard discussed across all aspects of industry and business, but particularly they have a It's great significance when it comes to the grocery sector. So what are the impact of these challenges on the grocery sector, Danielle?
Well, ultimately, Peter, they impact margins and the bottom line. So they dent profitability quite massively, which is a massive issue.
Yeah, it's always down to the bottom line, isn't it? And so how has that picture changed, or should I say evolved, since COVID times?
Yeah, so I'd say the picture has evolved, and really with two major developments. First being pressure on margins because they've increased. And particularly with supply chain disruptions and the increasing cost of food and categories like grain and cereal, meat and dairy. But also, customer behaviour has evolved. There's been a strong shift to discount groceries, which does tie into the cost of living challenge, that I mentioned earlier. But there's also a focus on sustainability and convenience. Consumers have become what's known as omni-channel shoppers, meaning that they shop across multiple channels. And in fact, I'm what you would consider an omni-channel shopper, meaning that I sometimes go physically to a store to do my weekly shop, but I often do the shop online. And then I'm more than likely to do a top-up shop for the bits that I forgot or maybe fancy spontaneously at a convenience store. And what's interesting is that omni-channel shoppers spend more money. So really, I should know better.
Well, yeah, and I can't speak for you, but I work on my own, and getting out to a physical store is something it's call me sad if you like, but it's something I quite look forward to. And I just sort of makes me wonder whether what part physical stores still have to play in this mix, in this omni-channel mix, both today and sort of looking forwards from today onwards.
Yeah, well, the store has become king. And in fact, the Institute of Grocery Distribution, the IGD, has actually projected that physical stores will continue to play a significant role in grocery sales growth towards 2030. And you might not know, Peter, that I'm actually a keen psychologist. And, the fact is that humans like routine, they like habit, and they like social interaction. People were shopping in store long before COVID, and it does allow people who perhaps now work from home, like you mentioned, or live alone, to connect socially with others. And so the grocery market is experiencing a shift that's ultimately driven by these consumer behaviours. Volumes to the various channels, they have changed. There is varying demand across these channels, and consequently, there's a strong need to develop an omni-channel fulfilment infrastructure.
Yes, it's a fascinating topic, consumer behaviour. We've thrown around the term omni-channel. Can you sort of define that for anyone who may not be completely familiar with that? And then maybe sort of explain a little bit, if you know, how grocers can sort of, or how they're managing to embrace the omni-channel markets today, and are they rising to the challenges that omni-channel presents?
Yeah, sure. So, okay, let's start with what omnichannel is then. So in simple terms, omnichannel is really about unifying the approach to managing inventory, but also customer orders across the different channels where customers are buying groceries. And that means integrating, both the physical stores and the online channel to enable this seamless customer shopping experience. And all of this is really enabled by software, because the data is fundamental for ensuring that seamless shopping experience wherever you are, be that in store or online. And grocery retailers are investing in their omni-channel infrastructures already because it's helping them win customer loyalty.
It's interesting in the world of logistics, when people aren't talking about the bottom line, they are talking about data and how best to harness it and to then use it effectively. So it sounds like the store is here to stay. We're still seeing investment in physical stores. Is that right?
Yes, we are. So, discounters like Aldi and Lidl, well, they're actually opening more stores. In the UK alone, Lidl aims to open around about 140 more stores by 2025. And we're actually also seeing investment in the online channel too. So, for instance, we've heard a lot about online volumes changing and the reassessment of micro-fulfillment centres. And what's happened in reality is that demand has normalised for online, but also it's gathered momentum in certain geographical areas. And more often than not, these are tending to be urban areas.
So the challenge of giving the consumer what they want, where they want, at all times is one that the grocers need to embrace. And micro-fulfillment centres have been touted as a way of doing that. Some grocers are already running successful trials and successful operations. So micro-fulfillment centre, or MFCs as they're known, what exactly are they? And how does first of all, from the grocer's perspective, how do they benefit from MFCs?
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll try and keep it quite simple. So a micro-fulfillment system is really an automated order fulfillment system. And it can use a couple of different technologies depending on the need. But ultimately, they're designed to fit into a small footprint in an urban location. So, for instance, within a supermarket. And there are a few reasons why grocers can benefit from having a micro-fulfillment centre. They tend to be located closer to the end customer, and so orders can be delivered faster. Micro-fulfillment centres, they can also process online orders much faster than people picking in store. And naturally, this helps the store customers have a better experience with fewer of those picking trucks on the shop floor that we see when we go in. And, when we discuss the industry challenges, a real common impact was profitability. Well, micro-fulfillment can actually reduce operating costs, really helping to improve that profitability.
So that's the benefit for the grocer. What about from the perspective of me, the consumer, and our listener?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The biggest way that micro-fulfillment benefits the likes of you, me, and other customers is really by getting products the way that we want it, the way that you want it, fast, which means that, you become happy, but you also become a loyal customer as well.
I imagine that data underpins all of that sort of knowledge. I guess the grocers are pretty good at interpreting what people want and when they want it and where they want it. But what are some of the specific challenges, apart from that, to implementing an MFC within a sort of heavily urbanized area?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you just said, data is absolutely key. But yeah, there are some challenges with all projects, really. But, I'd say with micro-fulfillment, there are probably really some determining factors to consider. So, for instance, capacity and physical footprint, but also, do you have the volume that maximizes productivity to generate a healthy return on investment? If we think about numbers of orders a day, you probably need to be looking at something like 900 orders upwards for a healthy return on investment. And this payback is also related to what you're doing today. So it's worth investigating what the productivity differences could be. Also, if you're currently losing share because of low slot availability, well, micro-fulfillment could actually unlock some capacity. So it's really worth just spending some time to explore if the challenges really are challenges or are they opportunities.
Challenges and opportunities. I was very lucky, actually, quite recently. I came as a guest on a customer day at the Dematic Innovation Centre near Frankfurt. I can't remember the name of the suburb because it's a very complicated name. I'm sure you've been there. But I learned about, in particular, two of your customers. And I'm going to say this clearly because it's a podcast and you can't see it in writing, but Kesko, Kesko, is a Finnish retailer, and Tesco in the UK, another grocery retailer, they seem to be finding effective, efficient ways to serve customers both online and in busy urban areas. So I know Dematic technology underpins their locations there. Could you tell us a little bit more about these as much as you can, please?
Yes, of course. So let's start with Kesko. So Kesko in Finland. So they implemented micro-fulfillment actually underneath a store using AutoStore technology. And this decision was really based on needing storage density due to their rapidly increasing volumes. They also wanted to improve the fulfillment process and improve profitability. But with all this, they needed a solution that would be flexible enough to fit within an area within several structural support pillars. They were way underground and there were lots of these support pillars, and AutoStore could actually do that because it has the flexibility to build around, interesting structures. Now, micro-fulfillment meant that Kesko could process more order volume and more quickly. And it also meant that they were able to offer faster delivery to their customers. Now, if we look at Tesco in the UK, well, even before launching into micro-fulfillment, I guess Dematic and Tesco have had a bit of a grocery commerce relationship that spans well over 20 years. And Tesco ended up choosing micro-fulfillment using shuttle technology. And that was because it could deliver the throughput speed needed, for the increasing volumes of their orders. But at the same time, they also wanted to reduce their operating costs for online orders to boost that profitability that we've talked about already. And today, I think Tesco has around 9 operational micro-fulfillment centres across the UK. So these are, two real success stories of how micro-fulfillment was fit for purpose, but is really delivering on what they needed in terms of, more order volume, the speed, but also ultimately on that profitability factor as well.
So, forgive my ignorance, Danielle. What is the customer experience of an MFC? For example, if you walk into one from the street, is there a physically different experience there? Or are they merely there on the high street serving customers who want deliveries?
Yeah, often you won't notice a difference in experience. Apart from, there is a site within Tesco, and I can't remember which location it is, but you can actually see the micro-fulfillment centre through a window. So you'll be able to see all the whizzy technology behind the scenes. But in terms of the actual customer experience, really it's about you turning up to collect your shopping or receiving it at home. But really you've just got the option of time, to have that delivery quicker than you would have in the past without this kind of technology being behind the scenes.
I quite like the idea of it being behind a window rather than hidden, because one thing we say a lot in logistics, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, is it's almost like a hidden industry, and nobody really realizes the complexities of it and the magnificent sort of cutting edge technology that drives it. So I'm all for technology behind windows, especially for the general public. So the two case studies you discussed, Kesko and Tesco, there are many complexities around finding a successful solution, and I'm sure they're still working out how to make it best operate both for themselves and for the consumer. So what can and what should grocers be doing to sort of embrace MFC fulfillment and to make it work for them and the consumer?
Yeah, so I guess, first you really need to understand if micro-fulfillment is the right solution for you. And then really it's a matter of assigning the right technology, which is when a Dematic would make a recommendation. We've already said that, in any project, there's always challenges, but, in developing a good relationship from the outset, that's the key to success. And that's exactly what we did with our customers like Tesco and Kesco. We worked as a partnership to really achieve the final design and the implementation plan. And really, as a partner, Dematic will discuss challenges with customers, because ultimately we want to arrive at a solution that works, that actually meets the overall customer's objectives, whether that's to achieve more throughput or to save money or all of the above, really.
Is there an argument for MFCs that they can actually help grocers reduce their carbon consumption? Is it through maybe fewer vehicle movements, that sort of thing?
Yeah, interestingly, automation is becoming a real critical tactic in retail grocery to achieve sustainability targets. And it's an attractive investment because, well, not only does automation build in sustainability, but it boosts operational effectiveness and reduces operating costs. So sustainability also means efficiency as well as resource conservation. And at Dematic, we work with customers to review processes and make recommendations for improvement, to improve that overall operational sustainability.
Now, Danielle, we've received a couple of questions from our readers, and looking at them, it looks like you've covered these points. I'll just quickly go through them again, just in case there's anything that stands out that perhaps needs a bit more fleshing out. First question is, how is the rise of grocery micro-fulfillment centres reshaping consumer expectations? Is there anything you'd like to sort of add to that, which you haven't already said?
Yeah, earlier I said, how consumer behaviour is really driving what grocery retail is doing at the moment. And that's really not going to change. I think micro-fulfillment is coming in to support the industry, deliver on those expectations. And the challenge historically has always been that profitability, how to make online profitable. There's so many demands with it, namely in time, speed and accuracy, and also availability. But really, the automation solutions that drive things like sustainability are also enabling the industry to satisfy those ever-changing and growing needs of the consumer.
I think in that answer, you've kind of epitomised what it is I love about this industry, and why I still get enthused writing about it. It's so challenging, and it's rising to the challenges. It can be so rewarding as well. And the implications of a successful implementation of a logistics solution are immense. The second question, there's a little particular part of it which probably I want to emphasize. So the question is, are we headed towards instant delivery becoming the norm? And what challenges do retailers face in scaling this technology? It was really kind of the word scaling that jumped out at me there, because perhaps it wasn't something we particularly talked about previously.
Yeah, I think we are in an era of convenience. That's not going to change. Having said that, I think we're going through this phase of normalization, and it's connected to this aftermath of COVID where, we kind of got used to, the online deliveries, that's settling now. Then we've gone through a phase of, I want this kind of now, I want this tomorrow. And I think, it will still grow in certain regions, probably more urban areas. I think some of us that live out in the country, in the sticks, so to speak, have kind of got used to waiting for a few days and know that it's actually okay. So I think there's going to be a balance, going forward, which is why it's going to be so important to gather that data and really understand which geographies are demanding the most, and this is probably where you need to focus to begin with on things like micro-fulfillment technology to help support the volumes in those areas. So, my recommendation certainly is to kind of review your data, review your volumes in the different areas, and actually really review your fulfillment infrastructure to see that it is working and serving your customers in the right way.
You're a grocery expert. Is it this sector that seems to be driving this technology forward? Is it because when it comes to food and drink, we know what we want to eat and drink tonight, whereas when it comes to, for example, ordering a book, we may not be ready to read that till next week or the week after. Is it fair to say that grocery is driving this forward?
I'd say it's probably, retail that's driving it forward across the board. Obviously this is grocery retail, but there's also things like apparel retail, where it's not unusual to receive apparel orders, next day, which is probably perhaps even more prevalent than in grocery retail. And one could ask, is that where we're going? But I'd also say that third-party companies are also, stepping up service requirements. So people like, the couriers, the parcel delivery providers, they're really stepping up their offerings to kind of next day, 48 hours, supporting those consumer demands that they're seeing across various industries too. So, yeah, I think we're seeing it across a number of industries. Yeah.
It's interesting, and from my perspective, I live in the city, but I actually spend a lot of time out in the sticks. And as I drive down the motorway away from the city, my consumption expectations change, and I'm kind of getting used to the world we live in now. It's a very interesting variety of solutions that retailers have to reach customers with their changing demands and changing expectations. And obviously Dematic is at the forefront of the technology powering all of that. Looking across at the clock, Danielle, looks like we reached the end of our allocated slot. I just wanted to ask, maybe there's a few words that you can tell to, maybe what actions grocers could take today to sort of help better serve their customers in urban areas.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess if you're thinking about microfulfillment, assess the possibilities. And to make life easier, my advice is get in touch with Dematic and have a conversation. At least this way you can get a better understanding of the technology, but also if it's a right fit for you. Also, we'd be able to arrange a visit to a live customer site so you can actually see what it's like in reality and how it might fit into your business.
Great. Reach out and I won't say touch it because that's got health and safety implications. But the idea of looking through that glass window and seeing it all in action is quite tempting. Danielle, listen, thank you very much for your extraordinarily interesting insight today. And thanks also to Dematic for supporting this edition of Logistics Business Conversations. And also thanks to you, the listener, for joining us today. So, Danielle, I wish you very well the best, all the best, and thank you very much indeed for your contribution.
Thank you, Peter. My pleasure.
And it remains for me to say that wherever you get your podcasts from, please do subscribe to the Logistics Business Conversations to make sure that the next edition is delivered straight to you as soon as it's released. Until then, it's goodbye from Danielle Dakin, and it's goodbye from me, Peter Macleod. Goodbye.